It's still spinning.
You are on.
All right. Well, all right. Hey, here we are for a long talk here. NCAA talk. I got DeFi, got Mason Boldazar in the house. We'll see how this goes. Hopefully it goes well. And we'll just make it happen here. I guess we're going to start. We're going to start, gentlemen, with our long talk today, just talking about the Final Four, the NCAA tournament. I'll start, and I'm gonna throw it to Mason because I know he's about to probably win some money because he's the man. He got all the picks right. He got all the picks right in Canton Local. Tournament hasn't been bad. I want to say it has been different with the Monday, Tuesday games. That's been a lot different. Not having the Thursday, Fridays. I don't know how I feel about that. Late nights, man. I don't know how they're doing it. Late nights, especially when you're talking about everybody playing in Indy and like Eastern time zone, and it's late. But it's been entertaining as it usually is for the Final Four. My picks were garbage, but I did pick Gonzaga. But besides that, everybody else has just lost. But I think it's been some fun games. Mason, I'm gonna throw it to you. Just first thoughts about the tournament.
So being a Carolina fan, it was a little tougher this year, but it has been one of my favorite tournaments to watch. I do like the Monday, Tuesday, especially being that they were on spring break, and plus it gives me something to watch on Monday and Tuesday. But I've probably watched more games this year than at any other time in a tournament since for a long time. I did get lucky in the one bracket. I do have 3 of the 4 Final Four teams, and I had Gonzaga win it at all. And a lot of that was pure luck because I had never, ever seen Houston play this year. And I saw Baylor play once or twice and Gonzaga once or twice. So the thing that stands out to me about this tournament, honestly, is the amount of teams that are just crazy athletic.
Yeah.
The amount of teams that have a bunch of 6'8", long wingspan, crazy athletic that can guard every position and can play and they just they do all these. It used to be back in the day there was always 1 or 2 of those teams. Maybe it was a Cincinnati that kind of came out of nowhere or something like that. But I mean, not only the Baylors and the Houstons, and I'm not going to put Gonzaga in that category because I don't consider them that tight, but even the Arkansas and the Florida States and the Michigans and the USCs and just those type of teams that they just swarm. They remind me of those Arkansas teams from back in the day, the 40 Minutes of Hell. They can just do a little bit of everything. There's just so many of those players now out there that it's crazy.
To that, like, isn't it like I think of what if this was a normal year? Could you imagine how crazy it would have been then with the fact that those boys would have had a regular season to really prep for this tournament, and how like it's amazing what they have been able to do with what they've had to deal with,
Yeah.
No doubt.
With all that being said, I still think Gonzaga may be one of the best college basketball teams that I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they have some they have a lot of talent, and they have some really good college basketball players to go with all that talent.
I agree. Well, the big thing with them that to me is crazy is I think they're one of those teams. I think Barkley or somebody said it. Like, you see them on film, and you might think, we can handle what they're going to do. We can handle what they're going to throw at us. But everything you just said, Mason, I totally agree with like 6'8", 6'9" guys, crazy athletic, get after it. And then I watched the Zags play, and they have athletes, but those guys know how to play basketball. It's like they are the throwback basketball team. Like, they're a bunch of guys who know how to play the game. Like, they don't just out-athlete you, which to me, they still get after it. And they've got guys that can put the ball in a hole and that can finish at the rim. But the passes they make, the way they cut, the way they move, it's like a clinic. It's one of those things where I wish you could just show young kids, like, hey, that's how you're supposed to play basketball. Like, you move without the ball. You don't just stand in ISO the entire time. But it's really cool. I mean, but I
would guess knowing both of your fathers that they would both enjoy Gonzaga basketball.
Yeah.
Right. My dad has said that. Like he said,
Yeah.
I love watching this team.
Yeah.
Yeah, they might say that, but after watching those tapes from like 61 and 62 and 64 online, there wasn't a lot of movement. So I don't know. I think a lot of old people just lie. I think they just lie a lot. I'm just letting you know that because I got the proof on film now, and it's like, I've been hearing for years about how great this offense was. Ooh, Red Ash's offense, and I'm like, that's like a second grade offense, dude. Don't throw that at me. I mean, but if you've got 6'10" or 6'11" guys you can throw the ball down the post to, it's going to make your life as a coach a whole lot easier. I mean, I look at, not to go crazy, but I look at my dad's team and I'm thinking like, okay, you guys had 6'11", 6'9", 6'6", 6'5". Dudes just don't have that anymore. I mean, people don't have that anymore, especially from a community school. I mean, you just don't. I mean, so, it makes life a lot easier when you have that kind of size. But I love the way the Zags play. I think it's impressive. Speaking of which, I guess let's just take a second here and we'll throw out who we think is going to win this whole thing. Mason, who do you think? I mean, Gonzaga?
I have Gonzaga and Baylor in the finals and Gonzaga winning, and I don't see any reason not to. And that's not to take anything away from UCLA because, boy, they did a great job playing defense last night. And not to take anything from Houston because they are one of those crazy athletic teams. But I just think that Baylor, they have some guys that can put the ball in the bucket, and they have some of those crazy athletes that we were talking about. And I think, with them and when Gonzaga matched up would be the best matchup. And I don't see anyone beating Gonzaga.
D, what about you?
I think, I think Gonzaga and Baylor are going to be playing, and I think Gonzaga is going to win. I did not have them in the final. Is I don't know if you could see all.
I see it. I see that M there. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought Michigan had what it took to get there. With the bigs and their guards started playing well the second half of the year. But man, it has been fun to watch. It's funny is I was kind of chuckling when Mason was talking. Can you guys still see me or no? Because
yeah, you're good.
Okay, because my computer went blank. I have not watched as much. It's funny because, so my Dukies obviously had a Dookie year. Ohio State lost. When OU lost, I just kind of stopped watching. And it was funny because this is my favorite time of year. And, Mace said that he's watched more. And I was telling my wife, like, I've never not watched, games like I haven't this year. It's been crazy. So, but I had, I've been watching games, but just not, minute by minute like I usually do. So
it makes sense.
Hey, it's funny though. Derek just said a favorite time of year, and typically this is my favorite time of the year because you get NCAA hoops. Usually, opening day is still a big deal for me, and then usually it's the NFL Combine, and without the Combine, I have been watching some pro days, but it is a great time of year to be a sports fan.
Yeah, no doubt. Plus, you got the Masters coming up pretty soon here too.
Coming up,
I mean, that's always great. I agree with you guys. I think the Zags are going to pull it out. I'm starting to change. Well, I shouldn't say I'm starting to. But a lot of my theory now for hoops is you got to score. And if you can't score, it just makes basketball so tough. I mean, you have to be able to put the ball in a basket. And when I think about Baylor and I think about Gonzaga, that's the thing I think about. I think those two teams can score. I mean, I look at Houston and I go, Houston's going to go through droughts. I look at UCLA can go through droughts. But to me, those two teams, when you can score consistently in basketball now, it makes the game so much easier, and you put so much pressure on your opponent because that when they can't and they go through those droughts, the lead just opens up so much that you can't come back from it. But yeah, I think the Zags are going to pull it out this year. I really do.
Keith, I think that was the downfall of the Buckeyes this year. I mean, like they had nobody they could go to, and I mean, how many times did the four of us or the three of us talk about? What are you going to do at the end of the game when you don't have people scoring? You know what I mean?
Right. Well, yeah. Well, and they would have somebody like Washington take tons of crappy shots. Yeah. And if he was on fire, it was great. But if he's off, then he's off. And so it was that, to me, that was, that was their downfall. I didn't even have this written down, but Mason, I'm you and I'll go to D next. But I mean, we've got, a Duke fan, we got Carolina guy. Tell me, what does Carolina need to do to get back to being Carolina? Because I mean, they had tons of size this year, but you looked at their guards and you're thinking, like, you're North Carolina. How do you not have better guard play or wings even?
I think watching all 20 something of their games this year, their guards were talented coming out of high school, but I don't know that they've progressed enough to be, and you guys know as well as I do, 7-foot guys that can't shoot, they don't mean anything anymore. Case in point, I mean, Andre Drummond just got released. The game has changed so much that, just dropping the ball down in the post isn't part of anyone's game. So, they had 4 7-footers who were all 5-star guys, but that's not what basketball is anymore. You have to be able to press, and you have to be able to jump and trap, and they had out rebound everybody by 15 rebounds a game, but it just didn't matter.
So D, what's up with the Dukies? What if I'm sure you watched them probably even more than I did this year, because I mean, as I watched them, I was just like, I don't know if I've seen a Duke team play like this.
I think, honestly, kind of like what Mace just said, but like, you had these dudes who were studs in high school, but we've seen it. We've coached it. We've coached kids who can score, but that doesn't mean that they're good players. You know what I mean? And then when they get to college and you need to be able to shoot the ball, Duke cannot shoot the ball, and when you have multiple guys who can't shoot the ball, there's nobody to get the ball to, and I mean, it was a interesting year, to say the least. I do think they'll be better next year, and they have a couple kids who they're, a couple recruits who I think will help them. But it was frustrating, and I know you and I talked about it a little bit. They just weren't any fun to watch,
No, well, it was crazy. I mean, it's still crazy to think about Duke, Carolina, Kentucky, and to think like, hey, those blue bloods at the end of the day this season, I mean, Carolina at least made it to the tournament. I mean, but the other two, they couldn't even make it to the tournament. And that's amazing to me, because it's the NCAA tournament. Almost everybody makes it to the tournament, I mean, and you're just thinking there's no way those guys can't make it. And so it just goes to show you that even with recruiting and scouting and it's got to be really tough. I can't imagine being a D1 coach and going, yep, that's going to be my guy, and they're going to come through. It's got to be so hard, man. It's got to be tough.
You know what was interesting, though, with that? Like, Coach K kept saying how much of a joy it was to coach this team. Like, that blows my mind. I don't know if that's, like, talk that coaches need to say. But, like, it was.
But you guys know as well as I do, we've all had our years. I mean, and, of course, we're nowhere near that level, but we've all had our years with middle school or high school kids where you're like, you've got the years where you got tons of talent, and every day you go home and you want to, drink yourself until you black out because you're like, oh my gosh, they just drove me insane. And then you've got other years where you only win 1 or 2 games, but you're like, it's a joy to be around these kids. Like, these kids actually listen to me. They don't, they're respectful. They like each other. I don't have to put out a fire every 2 seconds. It's so much better. So, I mean, maybe it was just one of those years for him where he felt like, hey, you know what? I like these kids. We just don't have tons of talent, you know?
That's a good point.
Yeah. All right, let's go on to topic number 2. And topic number 2 here is I'm going to stick with Mason here since Dan's not here today. And I'm going to throw this to Mason to give us his MLB preview. Mace, you tell us, we're back to a regular schedule this year. So it's not like last year where we had that shortened season and, you're only playing people in your own division or the division opposite of you in the other league. If you had to pick, give me some division winners, give us some guys to look out for. I know you're a big fantasy baseball guy, so I'm sure you got them all broken down. Give me an overview of MLB this year. What do you think?
I think it's going to be an exciting year for lots of reasons, but the amount of young talent in Major League Baseball right now is huge. These guys that are 22, 23 years old and signing $300 million deals. There's just so many talented guys. I think they're trying to help out the pitchers again this year by raising the stitches on the ball. trying to spin those things, all about the spin rates and things like that. But when it comes down to it, the cream of Major League Baseball is going to be LA and New York. The Dodgers with their payrolls, they can do whatever they want, and they got a great lineup. Their pitching staff's so deep that they're sending guys down, to be middle relievers that would be number 2 and 3 starters on a lot of teams. And the Yankees, they're kind of the same way. They have a great lineup. They play in a bandbox. Have great starting pitching. So I think those are the 2 cream of the crops. But the 2 teams that I'm really interested in watching this year would be San Diego and the White Sox. The White Sox have a whole bunch of 20-something-year-olds that are exciting. A lot of Latinos that kind of came out of nowhere and are really good. They have good pitching. Unfortunately, they're in the Indians division, so we'll get to play them 18 times. But and then San Diego with Fernando Tatis Jr. is just one of those super exciting guys who is kind of making baseball fun again. And they have tons of pitching, and so those 4 teams I think are the ones to kind of watch, and they'll be exciting.
That's great. Hey, D, I know you say what you got to say, D. Then I got a question for you. Go ahead.
I had my hand raised. I don't know if you saw that, but
I did. I just saw it. It popped up.
Are we the Indians this year? Or are we the Cleveland?
I don't know. That's a great question.
I think for one more year, maybe we're still the Indians.
Okay, go Tribe.
I did see that no face paint or headdresses.
I did. I just saw that. Yeah.
For real?
Yeah, I did see
Come
that.
on.
Yep, I did see that.
That makes me want to do it.
Yeah, you want to be that dude.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, D. Frankie Lindor money. If you're Frankie and you got offered the 10 years, 325? Is that what it was? 325? He wants 12, 385, I believe. Again, I'm not mad at anybody for getting their money. You tell me, D, if you had to fix baseball, what would you do? And then give me your 2 cents, because as an Indians fan, you lose a guy like Francisco Lindor. You knew the Tribe couldn't re-sign him, especially now when you see the kind of money he's asking for. How do you fix it? How do you fix the game?
Salary cap. I mean, it's a no-brainer. How can you have a New York? How can you have an LA and then you have Cleveland? You know what I mean? It's unbelievable that it is the way that it is right now. And I don't know if there's a magical fix or whatever, but you got to level the playing field somehow. You have to. And other sports have done it, but I don't know. It's disgraceful. It's embarrassing sometimes. And I know we've talked about it a lot, if you just look at the discrepancies in the payrolls of the teams, it's unbelievable. And how does that not make you wonder what's going on?
Well, here's the thing. And Mason, I'm going to throw the same question to you, because I'm sure you've thought about this even more. But when I think about sports in general, to me, the NFL is the only sport, to me, what I think about when I think, hey, at least your team has a chance, no matter where you're at, geographically, because even in basketball now, if you got crappy weather and you're in a crappy location, it's really tough for you to think you're going to get players. I mean, I don't know if we'll ever see the Detroit Pistons be the bad boy Pistons again, where you're going to have Hall of Fame guys on the Pistons, or, it's just so hard. But Mace, go ahead and tell us what do you think? What do we do for baseball? Because it's disheartening right now as an Indians fan.
It is, and I saw the stat that there are 4 major league players this year that have a higher salary this year than the entire Cleveland Indians team, and that's only going to increase. But the part for me, and I'm a union guy, so I'm all about players making money. So I don't like the idea of a salary cap. I like an idea of a salary floor. Teams, they're getting all this baseball, this money. The owners, I don't want the owners to have it all. I want the players to have it. So let's make sure that, owners have to spend $100 million. And if you don't for 2 years in a row, then you need to be penalized, or you need to be, forced to sell a team. I don't know what else to do, but I don't love the idea that you have a team like the Indians that built and built and built. They have all this young talent, and they know going into it that they have no chance of keeping those guys. So, I think that there needs to be some type of floor, or they need to be penalized for not spending the money that they're getting from us. The ticket people,
Right.
people that are buying tickets, and the people that are watching on television, because we all know that it's a dying sport. So, people in Ohio only usually care about Indians and Reds baseball. They're not looking at, unless they're big geeks like me who are in fantasy baseball leagues. Otherwise, people aren't just turning on and watching the Twins play the Angels on a Tuesday night. So I don't know. I just think we have to balance it out. I agree with Derek, but I don't want to cut it off the top. I just want to raise the bar at the bottom.
And I like I said, I know it's going to be tough because I know some labor strife is going to come probably at the end of after this season. But it'll be really interesting to see like what they do, because both sides are going to dig in their heels, and you just don't know when or how and if baseball is coming back, or what form it's going to come back in after that labor dispute. But it is tough, man. It's really hard, and it's that cycle of, I feel bad in some ways only because I think, okay, if you're an owner and I'm only getting X number of dollars. Now I know they do some revenue sharing too, so they do get some money, but it's got to be tough for you to go, well, I'm never going to fill my stadium if my fans know that, well, I'm only going to have these guys for another year and then they're all going to leave. So people aren't going to be like packing your stadium to be like, hey, I'm going to spend money to know that, hey, next year we got no shot. So I mean that cycle, that pattern just kind of continues. And then it's like, well, we don't have any money to spend to get free agents. We don't have this. But I agree with you, Mason. I think some owners have money. It's just, I think they've decided, hey, I'm cutting off the line right here. Like, I'm not spending any more than this. And then, unfortunately,
talking about the Indians, Keith, the team that we all kind of root for, honestly, even with getting rid of Frankie and getting rid of Carrasco, they're a team that's going to be right around that 500 mark. And they're going to be in it until the end, and still have a chance to grab one of those extra wild card spots. And if that happens, those owners just make more and more money.
Right.
So,
yeah,
I understand that it's a great business move, but that's not what we're in it for.
Right.
I didn't even think of your salary floor idea. I mean, that's good point right there.
Speaking of great business moves, we're going to topic 3, which to me piggybacks right off of that, because I know, Mason, you and your family, you guys got some Browns season tickets. And how do you feel about the 17th game coming up here in the NFL season, man?
Hey, I wish they would play football 52 weeks. So I'm excited for it. I love that it's another home game this year. We just did find out for our tickets that season ticket holders do not have to pay extra. So we'll get that game.
Awesome.
So that's pretty cool. I'll be curious to see when they slot. I know we're playing in Arizona. When they slot that in, hopefully it's like end of December. I want to see those guys come here and see what it's like to play at -10. But no, I'm excited. Hey, listen, I'm a Browns fan, so I'm always optimistic. So the more games, the merrier. And I'm just hoping, if we go back a long time ago and we talked about Longtalks, I'm just hoping that we get a home playoff game this year. And I think that would be unbelievable.
That'd be awesome. D, how about you? How do you feel about 17 games?
I'm all for it. I am. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how teams approach that, if that will affect. I mean, have they talked about preseason games yet? I don't even know that.
Yeah, I think there's 3 of them.
They're cutting it.
So they said they just cut one. Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see how teams approach this 17th game, and if that has an effect on, if there's guys sitting in games and things like that. I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Now, the one piece that I will say, Keith, I am a purist when it comes to sports, and those single season records are going to look a lot different. But of course, they did prior to 1978 as well. and again, talking to you guys as dads, they're going to tell us all about Jim Brown and how he
Right.
did things in 12 games and 14 games and up until the 70s, but I don't know that it's as big of a deal in football as it is in baseball. Some of those records, but I'm all for it. Like I said, I wish there was a game next Sunday.
The one thing that sticks out in my mind when I thought about the 17 games was, and I know that football doesn't have the strongest union. It's not like baseball where, that union's really strong, but I just thought, how do you not negotiate in like, hey, we're going to expand rosters? I mean, I know that's going to spread out the money more, but I still just keep thinking, like, when you think about health and, the guy's well-being, you just think, how do you not expand it? And you guys tell me, because I've looked it up before. Why do we have guys every week who don't play in the NFL? Like, the inactives. Like, I don't understand why you even need an inactive list. I mean, if a guy's hurt, okay, they're hurt, but you've got guys they're not hurt. They're just on the inactive list. And I'm thinking, hey, this is a dangerous sport and guys are, getting hurt and you got CTE and I would think you'd want as many guys available as you could get. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I like the idea of expanding a roster, especially with, moving to 17 games. I don't know why they wouldn't do something like that, but I don't know.
Yeah, and as far as the inactives, Keith, I think that a lot of that is just as far as game planning goes, So
right,
maybe I don't need a 6th wide receiver this week, but I better dress my 7th offensive lineman, and I don't know. It's just another way to kind of shuffling things around.
Just like you're saying, like if we're going to run the ball more this week or pass the ball more this week, something like that.
Yeah, and I think it also depends on who's dinged up and who's not.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I look at those games and I just think, to me, that's the only downside I ever think about football is injuries. Besides that, I'm with you guys. It's like I never get tired of watching football.
Right.
I mean, it's football. Now, bad football, I understand. Like, I'm not trying to watch the World Football League or whatever, but I mean, if it's the NFL and you're watching, it's not like you get tired of watching. It's not like, oh, this season's dragging on. I've never felt that way about NFL season. Maybe at a Browns season, but never an NFL season.
Did I hear that they're planning on having a Black Friday game this year?
That was that they were
on Amazon.
In the talks for. Yeah, they were in the talks for it, and because I heard somebody saying like, that would stink for college football because that's always been kind of their, they'd always piggyback after that Thursday, and then they had that Friday. You'd have, I know, back in the day, you used to have Texas A&M would play on that, but I think I believe Iowa and Wisconsin, somebody in the Big Ten, they always play on that, that Black Friday. So, but yeah, the NFL, they don't care. NFL don't care. They'll play any day. I mean, as we saw this past year with the COVID year, I mean, and again, it didn't bother me. Who cared? There was an NFL game on a Tuesday night. I was like, I'll turn it on. I'll watch it. So, I mean, you're not going to oversaturate it. It was just, that's great.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe there's no other bye week either. That surprised me too. I thought they might add an extra bye week.
And here's the one thing that and I'm sure they've thought about this, and I'm sure there's a reason why. But to me, Keith, I thought if you added another bye week, then you could push the Super Bowl back to President's Day weekend, and everybody would have Monday off. And think about what that could generate as far as everything for the NFL. So,
well, yeah, and now they're just 1 week short.
Yeah.
Because I mean, now it's going to bump back because of the 17th, but it's still a week short of President's Day. So I thought about that too, because I even printed out my calendar to see when it was when they announced when the Super Bowl was. And I was like, oh, it's bumping back.
February 13th.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So that won't happen, but we'll see. I don't know.
Make sure you get your Valentine's Day shopping in early, fellas.
Yeah, get that done.
It'd be awesome. Valentine's Day, Brownies Super Bowl. It'd be a great weekend.
It is.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome. Mace, you said you watched a couple pro days. Anybody stand out to you in any of the pro days you've seen?
Well, 2 yesterday, I'm telling you, and I know I'm going to be a homer, and I'm glad we don't have a whole lot of fans, but Justin Fields looked legit.
Wow.
And he's just super athletic with a great arm, and I think he's a smart kid who is pretty intense. And then I watched the Alabama Pro Day yesterday, and to be honest with you, I thought Mac Jones cost himself a whole bunch of money yesterday. I didn't think he looked good at all. His lack of athleticism, his lack of arm strength, I thought really showed. And I thought he cost himself some money. And those boys from Penn State, I watched some of Penn State's. I can't believe they didn't win more games with some of those guys. I mean, they got 6'5", 260-pound guys running 4.4s, and I'm looking at them, I'm like, I don't remember any of these guys for the last 2 years. Where are these guys coming from? But they were impressive. Yesterday's LSU guys, or some of those receivers running in the 4.3s at 6'4", 210, 215 is pretty impressive. But yeah, the Mac Jones, honestly, I thought, if you're seriously thinking about taking him in the top 4, there might be some teams rethinking that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Those were the 2 that I watched. I didn't watch your Penn State Nittany Lions. Sorry, but Fields, I thought his increased, and I thought Mac Jones decreased. And like, I was impressed with Fields' arm more than his speed yesterday. Like that to me, his accuracy and obviously the distance that he was throwing with was phenomenal.
Hey, real quick, Keith, before you did anybody get a chance to watch Urban Meyer in some of those?
Like clips, like showing clips of him?
Well, it was funny because where he stood, he said, I watched an interview where he said, I want to hear the ball come off their hand and I want to hear it going through the air. So he was standing like 3 yards past the line of scrimmage, right in the middle of a drill. And I thought that was interesting. That was kind of a neat take. When you see all the other coaches and stuff standing off on the sidelines and kind of just bullshitting with their buddies, then you got Urban right in the middle of a drill. I thought that was kind of neat.
He's intense, man.
He is.
He's intense. He is. He's an intense dude. It will be interesting, and hopefully we'll have another long talks. In a couple of weeks, get a little close to that draft in downtown Cleveland, and we can talk about who we think is going to go where, because everything's still it's still a little bit up in the air. I thought, I don't know how you guys felt about it, but I thought San Francisco, that was big for them to make that trade the way they traded up to go all the way to 3.
Yeah.
If you're trading up to go to 3, you're getting you're taking a quarterback. You're not trading up 3 to get somebody else.
Yeah.
And I believe they could keep Garoppolo around this year because you let that guy groom that guy, and then you let that guy take over. Plus, Jimmy G is hurt all the time, so you never know if he's going to, how many games he's going to play. Me personally, I hope Justin Fields. I would want him to go to San Francisco as a Justin Fields fan. I mean, way more than I want him to go to Jets. I'm like, you let Zach. What's my man's name? You let Zach Wilson. You let him take that abuse, man. You go to San Francisco. Let Shanahan coach you up, and you got a heck of a team around you. Because I think Zach Wilson in New York, I'm telling you, I just feel like it's just going to repeat. It's going to be the same thing happened to Sam Darnold. You're not going to. I mean, I know they're putting a little more talent around him, but it's still tough. It's going to be tough because, as we've all known, the saviors don't come along. You might think they do, but you got to put some guys around those guys.
Yeah, and in that division, I think Miami, with what they've done, they've set themselves up to be great for a long time. If Tua is the answer, I'm not convinced, but Buffalo is one of the 3 best teams in maybe all of football, and I still don't bet against Bill Belichick. So
right,
I think that's going to be tough for anybody to step into there in Jets land.
Yeah, no doubt. So D, any closing thoughts, D, about NFL stuff, or my last thing was just any thoughts about the Brownies this year? I know it's still really early, but free agency wise, that the Browns made any moves that you liked, or if there's anything else you want them to do?
Oh, heck yeah. No, I love what they've done free agency wise. I love what they've done defensively, and what still could happen. And, like I just read something on Twitter today, and they're talking about Clowney still possibly, being interested in coming here. And, just it's so cool and fun as a Browns fan, like we all are, to be excited about free agency and like knowing that people want to come here to win. You know what I mean? Like, when was the last time that we said that? You know,
not
like
just to get paid.
yeah,
right, exactly. Yes.
Like, coming here to want to win, to be on a team that could win. And like, I don't know if I've ever experienced that ever in my life before of in an off season of top name free agents who are like, okay, I'm looking for a team that I could go to win it. And they're talking about Cleveland. You know what I mean? Like, that's amazing to me. And that's, I don't know, it's just exciting.
Mace, how about you?
I obviously love the free agent moves, and I'll be the first one to admit I didn't know a ton about the safety from the Rams prior to, but everything I've read is just high character guy. Called their defense super smart, which really fits into what that front office and those coaching staff is looking for. Bringing the guy from Youngstown back is kind of cool, and you can check with all my 14 followers on Twitter when this all started. I said it. Clowney is the guy that I want, and I know all the things that people talk about with him, and but he if we could get him, I think that just solidifies that spot. I think he can do so much for a team, and just a wicked athletic defensive end who is great against the run. And then you go into the draft and you don't have holes. You can actually do what good teams do, and that is draft the best player. And that makes it a lot of fun. And I am super excited for this year. So been a long time. We deserve it.
No, there's no doubt. It's great. It's a new feeling to feel like you don't have to worry about so many things, and you're just looking forward to the actual season happening. Yeah. Your team being competitive and winning games. So it's pretty awesome.
I mean, time that we went into a draft not looking for a guy that we need. You know what I mean?
Or the savior, like you just said
that's what I mean. Like, okay, man, I hope this guy, shaking our dice, I hope that guy is the right guy,
the one piece that I don't understand, and you keep watching some of these teams do it, is, them moving that money around and deferring money and changing the signing bonuses. And we haven't done any of that, which to me, I think is a good thing. And obviously, those guys know what they're doing. They didn't graduate from Ivy League schools to be dumb. But I love the fact that we are not pushing money into the future and saying, well, we'll worry about this later. I mean, they're doing everything in-house, and they're doing it the right way. And I wouldn't be surprised if we don't end up with Connie, we end up with maybe getting Vernon back and him helping us down the stretch. He was so pivotal for us, those last 6-8 games. So he and another high character guy, and I just love what they're building. They're doing a great job.
I agree. All right, fellas. I think that pretty much wraps this up. Like I said, I'm looking forward to in a couple of weeks we can talk a little draft and maybe get Danny on here to see what his 2 cents are with the Squealers and anything else he might know. But I appreciate you guys' time and you being on here, and you guys have a good one, man. Talk to you guys later.
Have a good evening.
Peace.